Welcome to the Maui Pono Network interviews that we're doing with the 2022 candidates for Maui County. Today we have Chase Nomura, who is running for state representative for District 13. That includes Hana, Molokai, and Lanai. Welcome, Chase. Nice to have you here with us.
Thank you.
Chase, to begin with, could you give us a little bit about your background and your history and why you feel you are capable of running for this important office that we have for state rep?
Yeah, sure. First of all, I would like to thank you all for having me here today as a candidate to discuss my candidacy. For my background, I was born and raised on Maui. I'm 28 years old, and I'm currently, I work for the Office of Economic Development, and my current position is an Economic Development Specialist. But my background started when I was born and raised in Haiku. My grandma owned a little mom and pop store in Ku'au. It was called Ku'au Mart. And it really was just this small store that took care of our family and it took care of the community. I was born and raised in that store. I was stocking shelves. I would sweep the floors and everything. But that was the foundation of my connection to the community here. I went to Makua Elementary. And after being gratefully accepted into Kamehameha schools, I started middle school at Kamehameha, and I graduated in 2012 as a Kamehameha Schools Maui alumni. After that, I started off to try and figure out what I wanted to do with my life. I really love plants after finishing high school because a lot of my volunteer work is with environmental conservation. So I spent a lot of time volunteering with organizations like the Hawaii Youth Conservation Corps. I spent time with the Protect Kaho'olawe Ohana and the East Maui Watershed Partnership. So I wanted to be a kumu la'au lapa'au right after high school, and that deals with Hawaiian plant medicine. But there wasn't really a degree program at UH Maui for that, so kind of tried to create my own. I took ethnobotany, I took Hawaiian culture, Hawaiian language, and eventually my objectives kind of changed, and I wanted to travel and I wanted to see different cities, different islands, different countries. And that's when I switched to UH Manoa, where I got my undergraduate degree in linguistics. And I chose linguistics because I did have a love of language. I grew up here in Hawaii, which is the mixing pot of the Pacific. My last name is Japanese. My middle name is Hawaiian. And my first name is English. So I kind of developed this interest in learning languages because I believe that language is the extent of your world and the extent of your ability to express yourself. So I learned how to break language down and to learn and teach any language in the world. And I used that to travel. I went into Peace Corps right after my undergraduate degree. At first, they wanted to put me in Guyana as an environmental conservation promoter. But because of some conflicts in the country, they decided it was best not to send any more volunteers out there. And they gave me another offer of going into Peace Corps Cambodia as an English teacher and teacher trainer. So I spent 2 years in a rural rice village living with the host family. They took care of me, they fed me, they helped me navigate a new culture. And it was just a really good learning experience because I had to learn how to do everything again. I had to learn a different way of life. And sometimes it takes that extraction from your home culture to really analyze what you have. Because coming from Maui, I'm not rich by any means. I'm a middle-class citizen. And going there, it just made me realize how poverty struck some areas of the world is, and how almost privileged I was to come from where I am and to be raised how I was raised. To be privileged to live up in a house where I didn't have to do farm work every day. I didn't have to leave school to go work the fields. I had young students that just didn't have the opportunities that we do have here. And for those opportunities, I'm very grateful. And I saw this all throughout the 2 years that I taught in Cambodia. I taught class sizes of 50 plus students from grade 7 to grade 12. And it was just a whole learning experience because seeing how much poverty was there really changed my mind as to what needs to be done in the world. And that led me back to Maui. After finishing my 2 years, I came back to Maui, and this new sense of justice kind of arose within me where if I could go halfway across the world to Southeast Asia and help those children there, why am I not doing it here for my nieces, for my nephews, for my community, for my family, and for my culture? And that was part of the reason that drove me to want to run for office as a political candidate for House District 13. And everything that I've learned through the county, which is the job that I got once I came back from the Peace Corps, I started off as an elections officer, where I learned the entire process of voting. I helped kind of administer the first all-male election in the state. And that was a lot of work. It was a lot of counting. It was a lot of making sure that signatures matched everything. And after I finished with the Office of Elections, I eventually ended up in the Office of Economic Development as the Economic Development Specialist. And my specialty there was in terms of workforce. So I helped manage and administer federally funded programs. And basically what we do with that funding is remove barriers to employment. And any barrier could be previous incarceration, substance abuse, low income, any type of disability. And so people who do need this extra help can go to the American Job Center and get signed up into these programs that could help get them federal assistance. But after learning all of that, and I love my work because I get to help people. I help them figure out their career paths. I help them figure out what to put on their resume. And it's kind of cool that they can choose almost any job in the world. And right now is the time to get into any job because there's this event happening nationwide, and it's called the Great Resignation. Basically, people are leaving their jobs. They don't have a living wage. That's a big one. People want to work from home, so finding remote job opportunities is very big. And sometimes people go into early retirement. But because of this, there's this huge brain drain in the workforce that people need to get back. They need to get to work, and they need to train the next generation of up-and-coming future leaders.
So Chase, I have a question that along that line. How do you translate that as you go into then an office as state representative? How can you translate what you've learned, but particularly in terms of working with jobs, expanding jobs, making it easier for people to become employed, maybe in better paying jobs? What specifically would you do at this point in time as if you were elected?
Well, one of the first things that we do is to help people with assessments. A lot of people don't know where they want to go. So almost finding any type of job as a starting point and using that as a basis to jump off into the career pathway is a first step. But I believe there's a lot of jobs out there that aren't even created yet. We can merge industries such as technology and agriculture. Technology is one of my bigger interests, and I believe that we can merge every single industry within technology. There's educational technology. Examples are like Zoom or Microsoft Teams, where we are connecting people in remote communities. And these new kind of ways of connecting people are creating jobs. And I believe just merging industries is the best way forward to create new and innovative jobs for the workforce.
Great. Thank you. Let's go on. Asia, your next questions.
Hi, Chase. When you go to a state position, sometimes the challenge is just having great ideas, but not being able to get much accomplished. What do you feel like is your talent that will help you be an effective state legislator?
For me, I believe that I'm very good at listening. That's one of the things that I like to do. I like to hear what people have to say. And so I can and I'm able to collect all these different inputs from a lot of different people, and managing the resources and the ideas that they bring forth is what I believe I would be able to do. So kind of merging their different ideas into a shovel-ready project that could just be implemented, and filling in the holes and the pukas that show up, and making sure that it'll be a ship that can float and sail off.
Okay, this is maybe not related, but maybe it is. What have you enjoyed about your campaign? We're just at the beginning of the campaign, and maybe some of the viewers are watching at the end, but as you've started, what have you enjoyed about campaigning and being a putting your hat into the race?
Oh, one of my main goals when I was starting my campaign is to use it as a way to connect my family. For me, my family is the most important thing to me. And with my campaign, I want to bring everyone together so that what I do represents not me, but my family as a whole. And that is something that they can all contribute and pitch into, that it's not going to be a single person's victory or accomplishment, but it's going to be a collective and group goal that we can all work towards. But that's the biggest thing for me that I've really enjoyed, is working with my family, especially my grandma. She's my campaign manager, and I haven't ever heard of anyone's grandmother being their campaign manager. But it was also a little bit strategic because, who's going to tell grandma no if she asks you to help her with something? But I believe that she's going to be the biggest part and the biggest player in helping me get my campaign off the ground, which it's gotten off the ground, and to keep it running.
And sorry, just to follow up on that, if people were to ask someone else and say, Chase Nomura, he's the candidate that, what is kind of that core of Chase when it comes to you being a candidate for this office? Maybe what your biggest issue is, or what the biggest thing is that you bring to the table?
The biggest thing that I would bring to the table is my experience and knowledge in environmental conservation, which has been a lot of my work history. Education is another issue that I would like to tackle. Being an educator who taught in Cambodia, who had large class sizes, I feel how teachers, they feel underappreciated, and they obviously don't get paid enough to do what they should be doing. They spend all their personal funds for supplies for the classroom, and we just need to give them more support. So I would like to be somebody who's known for the environment, for helping teachers, and as well as helping to enforce or helping to build a better and more innovative workforce.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great. Next, we'll have Bruce Douglas, who ask questions.
Hi, Chase.
Hi, Bruce.
So when you're elected, it's not just what you're sitting there voting on things, but it has a lot to do with what you champion while you're in the House. So what would be your 3 favorite projects that you would take on to work on in the state as a state rep?
The 3 biggest projects that I would like to take on is definitely finding more funding and helping programs for invasive species control and mitigation. In terms of environment, that's something that I feel is very important. I live in Ha'iku, and the coqui frog population keeps encroaching closer and closer to my home. So I would like to help mitigate efforts in not only coqui frogs, but invasive trees, flora and fauna. So that's one project. Another one would be in terms of, I guess, helping create new jobs and create not a minimum wage, but a living wage, so that people who do get into the workforce can survive in this economy. A lot of our people are moving out of state because they can't afford to live here. They don't have housing here, and they just don't have the resources to support themselves. So I would like to help people stay here, stay home, by creating better and living wage jobs. And then the third one, I guess, I would like to be somebody who kind of brings in the new era of technology. As a technology native myself, I believe that the internet and connecting people through the internet is the best way to reach all of our rural communities. So making sure that we have broadband access in rural places like Hana, Moloka'i, and Lanai, to make sure that they're not left out of the picture, that we bring them up into the forefront of what is happening, and that they can stay connected with the rest of the island.
Thank you, Chase. And Inepkana, Haiku, Hana, in Molokai as well, the water issue is a big concern. It's controlled by the state, not locally currently. What would be your position? What would you do about the water issues that we face in this region?
In terms of the water issues, I do believe that the water should go to the people, to the small farmers who are cultural practitioners who have lo'is. I would like to see the water be used more resourcefully, and to make sure that the streams flow, Mauka to Makai. Currently, that connection has been cut off, and that's ruining the ecosystem. The reefs don't have the nutrition that's brought down from the mountains. And then the coastal areas and farmers don't have the water that they need to keep their crops alive. So I would like to see that, and I would support legislation that would make that happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Anne, you're next.
Aloha, Chief.
Aloha.
I'm Ann. I wanted to ask you about the minimum wage bill. I know they've been deliberating over that for, I think, even beyond January. But what do you think is adequate minimum wage? And are you happy with, are you satisfied with what the House bill final ruling was?
I am happy that there is a minimum wage bill that has finally passed.
Yeah.
I'm glad that it's finally increasing, as it should. The minimum wage should be tied to inflation and tied to the cost of living. Like I said before, it is not enough. It's going to take 5 years for that to be in full effect. I do see how it could affect smaller businesses, but people need to have a living wage, and if they can't support themselves, then those types of jobs shouldn't really be there. Jobs should be there to help the people so that they have enough financial ability to take care of themselves and live a comfortable life.
And the House seems to make this distinction that a living wage is not the same thing as a minimum wage. And I never quite understood that.
Yeah, I don't know why it wouldn't be tied together either. Honestly, it should be as much as things, right? Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anne.
Mark Jornia will be next.
Aloha, Chase. Thanks so much for coming in and interviewing with us. We sure appreciate it.
Aloha.
Aloha. I just wanted to check in with you. You are potentially representing the most diverse district in the entire county, or in the entire state, rather. And I'm just wondering if you could give us a kind of a quick thumbnail of where you see the main issues in terms of the diverse parts of the district, maybe starting with Molokai.
To clarify, you want me to elaborate on the issues that are affecting Molokai?
Mm-hmm.
I know Molokai is a very large agricultural and farming community. So a lot of their issues deals with agriculture and their food crops. Food sustainability is a big issue as well, to making sure that the agricultural crops that are produced stay within the islands, and that it's diversified enough to create a variety of food crops that are available to the local community. And there's a lot of different issues that are also affecting them, and I see it through the workforce. We have a lot of businesses that are being shut down because of COVID on Molokai, and they don't have the resources that Maui has. Maui does pull in a lot of the resources for the surrounding islands, such as Molokai and Lanai. So finding ways to bridge that gap and to bridge that ocean that connects Maui and Molokai is what needs to happen. I believe that remote work opportunities is probably the best way forward for Molokai for supplementing the workforce that is already there. There are jobs as farmers and hunters, and there's all kinds of different organizations there as well. But a lot of people need that extra resources to be able to work from home. Parents need to be home to take care of their kids because the cost of childcare is increasing. It's almost more efficient to stay home and not work than it is to work and pay for daycare. So just finding ways to kind of create wraparound services to help the rural communities of, as I mentioned, Molokai and Hana and Lanai are what needs to happen.
Okay, and then how about the island of Lanai?
On Lanai, again, my main concern is the workforce. So I just see a lot of opportunity to build it so that we can have working families there. A lot of people do get placed out and priced out of Lanai. So finding a way to make sure that they do have the capability to have a living wage so that they can stay there. There is a lot of environmental conservation issues, as there is on all islands. The axis deer issue, making sure that ungulates are under control and they're not eating up the crops. A lot of Lanai's workforce is hotel industry and tourism. So making sure that their unions are strong enough to support their constituents and their people there, and that the hotel workers have people to support them, and that they know there are resources available to help them out if they ever need housing assistance, food assistance, or even wraparound services in terms of creating resumes to find new jobs or find new remote work opportunities.
What kind of concrete steps do you see taking from the state to assist the people of Lanai in terms of building that?
I think we do need to work closely with our State Department of Labor and Industrial Relations to make sure that the resources for Lanai stay on Lanai and that they're not outsourced to Oahu. A lot of the funding I see is being pulled back, and I wish that it would stay in the county of Maui. So I would like to work with them to make sure that the funding allocations are distributed equitably across the county.
And then same question for Hana.
In terms of what types of issues are affecting Hana?
And what steps you might take to alleviate or to address those issues?
One of the bigger issues that I have been seeing with Hana is in terms of broadband and connectivity with internet and cell service. So I would like to work with the state, with also the Broadband Commission, to make sure that the internet access gets out there. I've been a big proponent of remote jobs, as you may have heard, but basically I want to make sure that they have the capability to have work. Being out in Hana, they have to drive into Kahului to go to Costco to do their grocery runs a lot. So just having to be so far out from a lot of the resources is one of the major problems that they do have. And making sure that they stay connected if there's ever an emergency is something that we need to make sure is implemented and corrected appropriately.
Okay, great. I have some follow-up questions, but I'll save them for my second round. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Chase, I get to ask the next question, and it has to do with home rule. I've been on the Charter Commission, and certainly we have to look at then what is in the governance of the state versus what's in the governance of the county, and how we can really start to maybe support the county to have more empowerment, especially when we're dealing with things like our water, like our education system. And as you mentioned, job opportunities and things along that line. What are your thoughts about having more home rule for Maui County versus having it be concentrated in the state? And also your perspective of the way the state is presently being run by which many look at as corporate Democrats. What's your perspective on that?
I touched on an aspect of this earlier in the sense that I see the resources being taken from Maui and sent to Oahu and Honolulu. And that is one of the largest population hubs. But at the same time, they can't help Maui from Oahu. We have to be on the ground. We're a community that likes to be in person. We like to be face to face. And I get sometimes that's not able to happen, but making sure that the funding is here and that we can distribute it equitably within the islands is going to be the best bet moving forward. The way that the state and the county interacts, I believe that we could create resource buoys and hubs to make sure that we have collective stakeholders, that we have the people who make the decisions, and that we do have the people that are in charge and can make change happen. If we can get them all together and make sure that we're all on the same page, that we do discussions that we have community input on the projects that the people want to happen. That's the way I envision that the state and the county can work together to make sure that our future is bright and that we get the projects in place that we want to happen to fix the problems that we see in the community. And
just along that line, I think there's the reality, though, not everyone has the same level of loyalty and openness and receptivity. In other words, their loyalty may be with larger corporations or big money interests. How do you deal with that type of interaction? Because it seems to be on many levels fairly rampant on a state level at this time. And it certainly has been a challenge for our previous representative, like we had with Tina Weilberger, who is unfortunately not running this time. But again, there's a level of frustration in dealing with the existing system. And are there bills and are there specific things that you envision you could do to help change that?
Yeah, there's quite a few things that I believe would be able to help limit some of the corporate interests in terms of legislature policymaking. One of the proposed bills coming up is to not allow donations to campaigns during the legislative session. And I believe that's going to be a big proponent to it, because if you can donate while people are actively voting on a bill, that almost skews their decision-making ability. They could think of voting no on one law, and then they'll get $1,000 donation. And they, oh, maybe I should think about that again. So that is one of the major things that I believe we could do to kind of offset the corporate money that is in politics right now.
Great, thank you for that. I'll let Bruce continue on from here. Bruce, you're next.
Yeah, so a big issue on Maui, and particularly in the Haiku Molokai, is the cost of affordable housing. What do you see you could do on the state level that could help affordable housing both in this district and all of Maui?
Affordable housing is such a big issue, and there's a lot of components to it. It's causing a lot of our people to move off island, to move to Las Vegas or to Oregon or to the West Coast, just so that they can live, so that they have money to buy groceries, pay for childcare, and all the daily needs that they have. So for affordable housing, that's a tough issue on Maui, because we have a lot of native lands that have burial sites, and a lot of these housing developments want to build on burial sites. Could you imagine if somebody wanted to dig up the memorial graveyard and put a hotel there? So for local people, that's such a big issue that their iwi kupuna are being taken out of their places just for housing. And, there's a way we can work together so that the local people have housing available here. I believe working again with the county and having the collaboration with the state to make sure that zoning laws, or making sure that the zoning gets reappropriated. We could even possibly rezone commercial businesses that have shut down to be smaller apartment housings. I also think that within the state, there's just a lot of work that needs to be done, and working together in partnerships is the best way to do that.
And to dovetail on that, there's increasing homeless problem, even of course bigger on Oahu, but we're growing that here. What do you see that you could do to help the homeless situation?
With the homeless situation, there is funding available to help some of those people that are actively looking for assistance. It is rough to help people that are living in the situations that they are living in. It takes a lot of different facets to make sure that that situation can be remedied. We need to make sure that they have a safe place to sleep at night, because if people don't have a safe place to sleep at night, how are they going to wake up to go to a job to make money to buy food? How are they going to have enough resources to buy clothes for their first day of work? So kind of reaching out and just giving a lot of aloha and having a kind heart when we do have our workers that go out to these communities to talk to these people to see what they actually need. to see if they need a ride to go get their license, to go pick up a cell phone so that they can answer a call to schedule an interview. It's just so many different ways that we can tackle this, and different ways that we need to support to make sure that the homeless people are taken care of, because they are people, and people deserve housing, food, and good living lives.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
We'll have Ann next.
Okay. Hi again. Hello again. Chase,
Hi.
I wanted to ask you how, I know you've been a teacher before, so I'm sure you can relate to the demands of being a teacher. And you know what the teachers went through in Hawaii with the pandemic and the critical shortage of teachers. And so I wanted to ask you, how would you ensure that Hawaii's teachers are the highest paid and the most qualified, the best in the world? How would you go about ensuring that?
That would take a lot of work with the Department of Education to make sure that we can get a lot of the teachers the help that they need, whether that's in benefits and vacation time, to making sure that they're supported. Because teachers kind of got the short end of the stick during COVID. They had to have classrooms of 20 plus students, each with their own connected networks of potential COVID infections. So we almost threw them out into the midst of this wildfire, and they did not have the support that they need. So to make sure that they could be supported and to have the help that they need, we could give them more pay. We can make sure that they have supply funds specifically allocated for each of the teachers. We can make sure that they have the vacation time that they need during school breaks, to get the rest and to regenerate, so that they can be the people who are in front of our children every day, who teach them and show them and kind of guide them throughout life. But I believe just giving them more pay is the first start. That's the first step to making sure that our teachers.
What is the Hawaii Teachers Association?
HSTA.
HSTA. Yes, I mean, are the teachers working with them for that, or are you supportive of that?
Yeah, I'm very supportive of the Hawaii Teachers Association, and their connection with the teachers. There just needs to be more support services for those teachers to be able to do their jobs, and that so that they get more appreciation for it. So possibly even adding more degree programs and creating career pathways from high schools into our local universities and colleges, so that we can create a new upcoming generation of teachers that are dedicated to their jobs and are well respected and paid for it.
Right.
Great.
All
Next,
right,
we'll have
you.
Mark Joyner
Thank you.
next.
Hi, Mark.
Mark, you're on mute, and this will be our last question, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah, I just unmuted. I don't know what happened. but anyway, I wanted to kind of follow up on my earlier line of inquiry and just find out what you would do with such a diverse district, such a far-flung district, sometimes as you said, across oceans, in order to keep up with your constituents. Would you have like a liaison in the various areas? How would you look? I'm sure you thought this through. How would you look forward to keeping in touch with them? I know, like, for instance, I mentioned Tina. Tina just has this one district, so she could talk story on a regular basis with the people of Kihei. But I'm wondering how you would tackle that.
Well, one of the things when I started this campaign is that I realized the importance of a network. And that's what I've been building and developing, is to meeting with people in the community and my constituents, and using their networks to connect to rural communities like Molokai and Lanai, as well as Hana. But I think I would be able to work with the current sitting state senator, within the district who lives on Molokai. So I would be able to help a lot more of the Maui rural communities. She would be able to help more Molokai communities. And we would work together to make sure that we address the issues that we're both facing. And then together we could collaboratively make more outreach efforts and actually visit Lanai to meet with them, have town hall meetings. I think that having remote access to Zoom calls or virtual town halls would be the best way to make sure that we can connect all of those communities together.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Chase, for this interview. And I was wondering if you could just maybe make a final statement to our viewers here. Is there any last thing that you'd like to say? Any point that we may have missed that you felt's important? The floor is yours.
Thank you. First of all, I wanted to thank all of you for listening and who see this. I want to thank the Maui Pono Network for inviting me to share my ideas, to share who I am and what I represent. Again, my name is Chase Keali Imalu Nomura. I'm running for State House, District 13, and that includes North Maui, East Maui, Molokai, Lanai, and Koho'olawe. And I believe that together we can make the future happen, we can make it bright, and we can make it what we want it to be. We need to aloha ke kahi, a aloha me ka palena ole. We need to love each other and love without limits. Thank you.